Are we seeing the rise of micro apps? Or, shall we say, personal or personalized apps? I think we could be. Let's take a look. There's an article here on TechCrunch where the headline is "The Rise of Micro Apps. Non-developers are writing apps instead of buying them." Do you think this is true? If you've been following vibe coding, then you know that it probably can be true. You don't have to be a developer, but it certainly helps. I have done some programming in my life, but I don't really consider myself to be a developer. I do come from a technical background, and having a technical background definitely helps if you want to use AI to write software. However, I don't think it's completely necessary. If you're someone who is smart, shall we say, if you're even from a non-technical background, but you have an innate curiosity, then I think working with AI to create software won't be that hard for you. AI does a lot of the hard work, but it does require some persistence. So let's have a little bit of a look. Let's have a look at the first story here, which is mentioned inside the TechCrunch article. It says, Rebecca Yu spent 7 days to vibe code a dining app. She was tired of the decision fatigue that comes from people in a chat group not being able to decide where to eat. So she has a real life problem. Whether you call it first world problems, doesn't matter. She has some challenge, some issue in life that she wants to solve, and she thinks that there's a software solution. And of course there is. Now, she says that she's got Claude and ChatGPT, and she built this dining app from scratch, which, yeah, of course, it's definitely possible. I cover that in my videos. And so she's got an app which will recommend restaurants to her and to her friends based upon their shared interests. So she's probably built features that are for her and her friends, and probably not additional extra features that they don't need. And sometimes when you create an app for the mass market, you have to probably add a lot of features that many people will like, but not everyone will like. However, if you're only catering to a very small audience, you probably don't need that many features. I think this is where the idea of a micro app comes in. It's highly personalized, and it only has the features and functions that you actually want, and all the other stuff that you don't really need, well, it's just not in the app. And I think that is an interesting paradigm that we're coming into. Now, the way that it mentions ChatGPT sounds quite familiar to me. That's where I start my process. I go to ChatGPT and I have a little bit of a conversation, and I say, this is what I'm thinking of building. And then it will write a spec document for me and a plan document for me, and I cover that in a different video. And hopefully I'm going to remember to link that in the description. If not, go to my channel, dig through my videos. There isn't many of them right now, and you'll be able to find them. Ones are basically getting started with vibe coding in 5 minutes, and then a bigger one which is 30 minutes long. So that's how I get started. And now she's mentioned Claude, but she hasn't mentioned whether it's Claude Code, or Claude on the web, or just a Claude model inside something like Windsurf or Anti-Gravity. However, regardless of that, it's also very familiar to me because the Claude models are probably the best for writing code right now, and I go into Windsurf or Anti-Gravity and I often use the Claude models for writing code. So this is all very familiar to me, and it tracks with what I think is true. So what's she got? Once vibe coding apps emerged, I started hearing about people with no technical backgrounds were successfully building their own apps, and that is true. There is an entire subreddit devoted to vibe coding. Of course, the quality will vary. Some will be terrible and some will be good, getting towards great. Yes, writing great software will take a long time, as you have to iron out all of the bugs and all of the problems. However, it is possible. Given relatively how new vibe coding is, we probably shouldn't expect too many apps to be super great. Not yet. So she built it in a week. It's a web app called Where to Eat. And I think this is a really positive story. I think it's quite inspiring for people to go and try this out. If you're not technical, you may have a more challenging time, but I don't think it's impossible. It's very much possible. Now, if you want to create a mobile app, I think that'll be a bit more of a headache, especially if you want to put it onto the Google Play Store, or if you wanted to put it onto Apple, then another further bigger headache. If you just create it for the web, then it's actually really easy to get that deployed. You can even ask AI for help in order to do that. So the article is good. I think it's a good, inspiring piece. I don't want to cover all of it here. It's basically a series of, say, 3 or 4 different personal stories from different people that have been interviewed for the article, but there's not much more that I want to say on that. However, I want to show some apps that I've made, and in particular there's 2 that I want to focus on, which are productivity apps. And these are apps which are personal to me. So I built some games, as you will have seen in my previous videos. You can find it obviously on the channel. What I'm showing you here is an image of my website. This is like my portfolio, if you want to call it that, or my showcase. These are the apps which are semi-finished, they work, and are in a decent state. They're maybe not finished, not completely finished, and perhaps software never is. So I'm going to ignore the games. I'm not going to mention them here. The next section down is writing tools. I've covered that also in videos. Tech demos I haven't covered yet, and they're a future intention basically. There'll be quite a lot more work involved in order to get them into a good state for a presentation. Productivity tools. So this is my micro apps, my personalized apps, which are helping me to solve challenges that I've been having actually with creating videos, funnily enough. So if you've ever recorded a video for YouTube, you may be familiar with software called OBS. OBS is free open source software that you can download at no cost, unsurprisingly. And it's good. It has a lot of features. It has a lot of features. Some people might find it a little bit daunting at first. However, it is actually pretty straightforward to use. But there's so many features that I just don't use. However, for me, there's been a huge challenge with the software, which is that I've tried the software on both Linux and Windows, so 2 different operating systems with 3 different microphones, and each time that I've been recording, the input sound might skip. And it's very annoying to record a video whenever the sound might skip, because basically I can't use that video at all. So after a series of, failed attempts to create videos, I might eventually get it with like the 5th or 6th videos, the sound might start working. I couldn't quite figure it out. I talked to AI, I asked AI to figure it out for me, and even AI couldn't figure out what the problem was. It thought that it did, but it's not the microphone, and it's not the operating systems, because I can record cleanly outside of OBS. The problem was OBS, and that's just so frustrating. It's doing something which is too clever. And so this is where I came to the point and said, okay, I said to ChatGPT, can I write software which will have just the features that I want and doesn't have all of the extra features that I just don't need at all? And ChatGPT said, yes, of course you can. So I've written this, which I called No BS Recorder, and it works great for exactly what I need. So far, I've only tested on Linux X11. I haven't checked for Wayland. I haven't checked for Windows or Mac. It might work, probably not, but it could probably be adapted. And that's maybe something for another day. So what does this simple software do? I can record my video. I can record the sound. I can boost the sound a bit because I have some problems with a dynamic mic. It's just naturally quiet and it's a little bit frustrating at times. And of course I can record tabs in my browser or any window that I have open on my desktop. And that's basically it. And of course I need to be able to save the files, as you would imagine, which is just like any software. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that OBS has that I just don't need. And well, that's the app. So this is my micro app and it does exactly what I need. And the thing is, I'm recording this video right now using that app. And the last few videos that I've uploaded to YouTube were also recorded using this app. So I know that it works. It's also open source and it's on GitHub. So if you ever wanted to check it out, you could go there and you can find it. Moving on to the next app, which is called Live Slides. This was my intention to replace Google Slides with something of my own. Unfortunately, it's not quite there yet. So this presentation that I'm doing right now for you on YouTube is actually inside Google Slides, as have most of my videos. However, I have this intention to move away from Google Slides to Live Slides, which I'm still creating. But as I said, it's not quite there yet. So the idea is to have an app which is much more minimal than Google Slides, and it has basically just the features that I need, again, like a micro app, and it doesn't have all of the extra features that I just don't need. So if I'm in Google Slides, I'm looking to do something, sometimes I just can't find the feature that I actually need or want. And here I want to be able to just say, just have an app which is so simple that it has exactly what I need right in front of me. The other benefit is that because this is code that I've written with AI, I can also ask AI to help me find a feature. Perhaps if I don't know where it is, which probably not going to be the case, but if I couldn't find it, I could ask AI. Or if I want to add a feature, I can actually ask AI to add a feature for me. That's just something that you can't do with Google Slides. Yes, Google Slides has a nice AI chat bar on the side, such that it can help you to create the presentation. However, I can also kind of do that inside an IDE. I can go inside Cursor, Windsurf, or Anti-Gravity, and I can ask it to create a presentation. Now, the big caveat to all of that is that AI is not quite good enough for creating presentations, at least in what I'm seeing. I can ask it to write some text for me, to write out a presentation in terms of, the different slides being different sections of a file. However, it feels a little bit hollow and not quite there yet. I mean, maybe not in every case, but I'm not entirely satisfied. And getting images created has also been a bit of a challenge, more so than I would have thought so. If you've ever used Anti-Gravity, it actually has a nice feature inside it where you can request images, and Google's Nano Banana model will generate images for you and then put it into the presentation. In my recent test, it wasn't working great, so I was a little bit annoyed. And that's been some of the friction which has stopped me from using Live Slides. However, I'm still working on it. It is open source. It is on GitHub. You can find it. Perhaps if you have your own ideas, you could download it and, mix in your ideas. So that's two apps I wanted to cover. It's my micro apps, my personalized apps. And I wanted to share those with you as a way to inspire you to also create apps which may solve problems that you're having, especially within on the computer, something that you could solve with software. I think it's definitely possible. And like I said, if you're technical, it should be quite straightforward and fairly easy. It's not that difficult to get started. If you're not technical, then yes, there will be a bigger learning curve. It will be that much more difficult, perhaps even painful at times. There is always a point where AI just gets stuck and you have to then use your brain and try and solve it. And yes, that can be a bit of a pain. So I'm on this slide here where I'm mentioning GitHub. Again, this is all of my apps. It's basically all of the code that I've written with AI. It's there, it's public. You can download it, it's free. You can mix it. The licenses are quite permissive, if not very permissive across the board. I think most of the licenses are MIT. And so yeah, so go and check them out. The link will be in the description for this one, along with my website. And that's most of what I wanted to cover in this video. It was basically just something to inspire you, something to kind of say, maybe just get started and just get on with it, because you'll actually find that it can actually be a lot of fun. So of course, I would appreciate if you can like the video, if you want to subscribe to the channel to hear more vibe coding stories, or to see more apps I'm building, ones that you may find fun, ones which are often the time it's going to be games or text generation. That's the ones that I've been focused on mostly. Those are the ones that appeal to me the most, of course. The apps like the Live Slides and the No.BS, I haven't really covered those because they're not really that interesting. They are basically productivity tools, so they're kind of boring, but they're useful for me. At least I hope that Live Slides will be useful for me. If you could comment as well, that'd be greatly appreciated. I haven't had too many comments on YouTube yet, but it'd be great to have some feedback, or if you have some suggestions, maybe some pointers for me, or if you actually wanted to learn something, I don't mind a couple of questions While there isn't that many comments, it's easy for me to reply. Of course, if there was an absolute ton of comments, that would be very difficult for me to do that. If you're on GitHub, it would be appreciated if you could send some stars towards my repo. Again, absolutely no pressure, but it's always nice to get that, and I think it helps my apps to be discovered within GitHub better. Some people have even found me through the search feature on GitHub, which is nice to know. They were looking for an app, something similar that I had built, and they found it and they sent me a message, and they were really happy. And it's just such a great feeling to have that. So that's everything I wanted to say. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Thanks very much.